We're still going live. I'm going to remove that. All right, everybody. We made it on.
Yes.
We had a hiccup this morning, so we pushed back our arrival to do this live, but I'm grateful that we made it on. Sometimes technology is not as easy as it seems, but I'm grateful that we were able to get it reset up and rescheduled. And now we're going to have a conversation that I try to have on Fridays that's called The Impact of Fatherlessness. And I wanted to have this conversation, especially with Ryan Powell, because look, Junior gets on and goes, boom. I wanted to have this conversation with Ryan Powell because he runs a group on Facebook called The Unmarried Father. And I need people to understand, I've talked about it, but it's different when you have a male's perspective. I'm talking about it very clinically. I'm talking about it very, from a professional standpoint. And I'm talking about it by sharing stories of individuals that I've worked with, but I'm not talking about it from the perspective of going through it. Ryan has gone through it, is still going through it, and he has really worked hard to help get the information out concerning your rights as a father, concerning how do you navigate the scenario from his own experience in that way. So Ryan, thank you for coming on with me this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, and I know everybody knows, I assume people know who I am, but I know there are people jumping on who don't. I'm Dr. Torri J. I'm the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. And I just need people to know that much at this point. So Ryan, let's get into this. Oh, Sarah said, I'm here. Don't know what's going on yet.
Let's do this.
Sarah's like, I'm here. I don't know what's happening, but I'm here. I appreciate that much. So Ryan, we want to talk about the unmarried father, but also let's start by first talking about why you started the Unmarried Father on Facebook.
Well, I started with the Father's Rights movement, and they do amazing things, but I wanted to specifically talk about my issue and what I was going through, which a lot of men out there that joined the Father's Rights movement are married fathers that have gotten a divorce, and their road is a whole lot different than an unmarried father's road. So I just decided, now that I know how to run Facebook and make pages and do all of this other mess, I'm really good at memes, and started doing Facebook Lives and think I'm doing an all right job with those. But I wanted to build something to show what is going on with 40% of children that are born in America.
Yeah.
And in some states, it's higher than that. Here in Tennessee, it is 43.6% of children are born out of wedlock. And what I didn't know, being a father, I couldn't wait to be a dad. We had an unexpected pregnancy, and I said, all right, well, it's time to saddle up. We're going to be a dad. We're going to be parents. And sometimes things don't work out, and I had to find out the hard way that I didn't have any rights to my daughter, even after I signed the birth certificate and the acknowledgement of paternity at the hospital. You're nothing besides you signing all of that documentation. It's just stating that you are obligated to financially pay for this child until this child reaches adulthood.
Yeah.
So mom was able to just up and leave, and legally she didn't have to let me see my daughter. And once I got into court, her attorney actually encouraged that. Don't let Ryan see his daughter, y'all's daughter, until we go to court and we get paternity completely established and all of this other mess. And I mean, in some cases I understand, because what if I wasn't the father? But I've been there since this child was conceived. I'm talking to the belly. I had bonded with this child before this child was my child, our child was even born. So now I'm there the first 4 months of her life. Mom and her mother and I are together. And once we split, unless you've got money, you can't be in your child's life. And I didn't realize how much money it was going to cost me.
Mm,
I spent $13,000 just on an attorney to try to get all this going, and then on top of that, you're paying child support, and then on top of that, you're trying to keep your house, and then on top of that, you're trying to feed yourself, your child. Once you finally get those rights to your child, and it's once you once you get past the first hurdle, which is establishing your rights, then you go down the exact same path as a married divorcing father would go through.
yeah. But you have extra steps before that.
Correct.
I want to back up into a couple of things that you said. One thing that you brought up was that you were present. You were there. You weren't only there like at conception. Let's keep it real. You weren't only there
Right.
at conception to be a sperm donor. You were there clearly for some level of doctor's appointments. You were there at birth because you signed this birth certificate and this paternity of acknowledgement. And many dads call my office saying, well, I signed the birth certificate. And, and they're like stomping their feet and beating their chest as if that means something. And I do believe that women try to make it something, Ryan, like when a man doesn't sign the birth certificate, oh, you're trying to act like the child is not yours or illegitimate or whatever. But sometimes men have knowledge that women are unaware of. And so they choose not to sign the birth certificate until they actually know. Now, we all know there's some sleazeballs out there, but that's not who we talk about. I want to deal with the fact that there are fathers who they recognize if I sign this, I'm going to be obligated. So I need to do all of the steps in a certain order. And dads, you can't wait till the child is 3 to do these things, because then the courts try to use this whole piece of, well, this is their norm. This is the stability. This is the normal course. The child is used to this. You have to do this stuff as soon as you think that you're the father. And Ryan has put a very clear piece out here. It's going to cost you.
Oh, yeah.
And my suggestion, because it's going to cost you, start saving as soon as you know that child is conceived. As soon as you know she's pregnant.
Seriously.
And money.
and get the paternity test. Here's one thing. This was one of my first memes that I did when I created the page last year. What is more important to you? Your relationship with mom or your child's right to have a father?
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, I wanted to get a paternity test done to make sure that I was my daughter's father, because we were in a very new relationship and there was that opportunity that I may not be. But that made mom extremely mad, thinking, oh, you just don't want to be a dad. You don't want this, you don't want that. So it's that extra stress that I'm like, well, crap, I've got to keep her around, because if I don't, then I'm not going to have my daughter around. And I'm not even thinking about not seeing my daughter but weekends. I'm thinking 50-50. I didn't even want 50-50 because I wanted 100. I wanted to be with mom. So I'm trying to make mom happy so I can still be in my daughter's life. And it just turns into an emotional roller coaster trying to build this relationship with someone and then also be in your child's life at the same time.
You're fighting 2 battles.
Right.
You're fighting 2 battles. I want to say, the DNA test, the paternity test is key. I bought into and was asked to partner once I had the conversation with the gentleman. So I have a DNA company that I have just kind of sat on the side. But during COVID, I've been trying to get everything together to launch it afterwards because, well, not afterwards, because we still in the midst of.
Oh, yeah, right.
By August, I'll be able to really do that in a way that is beneficial to dads because I get a discounted rate. And so I can still offer it to dads, not maybe as high as some of the other ones, but in a way that helps them navigate this system at a cheaper price, because some of these tests can be extremely high. I have, over the years, I've worked with DDC, for paternity tests, and they are amazing to fathers to me, because they do allow you a payment plan. You can hit that 180. So I'm gonna give you some tips right now. Who, those of you who are dealing with it, they'll allow you to do a deposit of 180. It costs $475, and they'll allow you to take the test. You can take it pretty much anywhere in the country where you are, and the mom and the child can go wherever they are. And by the time, the tests come back, you can pay off the rest of the money. So they will move forward with a deposit, guys. So you need to understand that you're going to have to do a DNA, and whether she gets upset about it doesn't matter.
And the other thing to add is you have to do a court approved paternity test. You can't go to Walgreens and get that. Now that test will be accurate, but they didn't get a picture of the child while this professional is swabbing, and then a picture of you while you swab. It has to be
It's how I did with my dad. They got legal fingerprints. They did all they got your ID. It has to be legal, because clearly people have done some shady things, Ryan. And so now it has to be legal, and that's what we're dealing with. So I want to get into, you guys break up. What made you so excited about being a father? Was it your own upbringing as far as having a father in your home?
Yes. And my parents actually went through a divorce when I was 12 or 13 years old. So I did the whole divorce stuff when I was in high school, but I always wanted to be a dad. Like I had other father figures, not just my father, but my best friend's dads, and all of the things that they would do with them. Just being a dad sounded pretty cool. I wanted to do all of the dad things, but also do more than what the old school father, used to do, with changing diapers and putting them to bed at night and doing homework. And I mean, everything that has to do with being a parent, I wanted to be a part about. So I was just simply excited, because I was pushing 30 years old, and I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm ever going to be a dad. All my friends they've been parents for almost 10 years, and some of them 5, and a few of them 2 and 3. So when my time came, there was no reason in pushing it as a negative, like, oh man, you're going to be a dad, man, your life is over. No, your life is just starting.
Yeah.
Like this is a new chapter that you get to experience in life. And in some ways your life is kind of pushed to the side and is not necessarily over, but you're adding this new person into your life that you get to help raise from the beginning and watch them grow. And watching them grow actually helps you realize how much you're growing yourself.
It's called purpose, right? Women feel it. That's why we want to have children. There's a purpose in motherhood, and we have to get to a place where we understand that men have that same desire. We live in a culture that doesn't say that. It's like her biological clock is ticking. She wants to have a baby. It's all about her, and that's why you get this whole idea of my child when women are talking to the father a lot of times, or with her friends. It's her child. She has taken ownership of that child. So what was the mom's relationship like with her father growing up?
She actually never had a father.
See? Okay, pause. I did not ask Ryan this question beforehand, but this is what we have to recognize. People always say, well, Torri, your page is about reunification and fatherlessness. Yes, but fatherhood plays a strong component in how you parent, or you feel like a father should be present, whatever that mindset is that you have. It plays a huge part. Your fatherless upbringing plays a huge part in how you get to navigate all this. And I tell people all the time, I tell men especially, you have to ask the questions. You have to. And even if you see a dad present, you then need to ask, well, what's your relationship like with him? And ladies, you've got to ask the same question. You can't have a man who you think is going to be all these amazing things, but he didn't have a father. He's going to struggle in that area or opt out. Men are already insecure about fatherhood. So you're going to add a component where he didn't have a father or he was father deprived, and you're creating a whole situation for yourself that you just aren't prepared for. And so I'm glad to know that my theory is correct, Ryan.
Yeah.
And even talking about you going through divorce with your mother, I want to use this as a quick moment and a quick teaching moment. What was your relationship like with your father during that divorce and then even after the divorce?
Well, during the divorce, my dad actually started reaching out to be closer to me because he's starting to realize I'm about to lose my kids. And I was the oldest. So he had to, we were close as, you know, in my younger years, he worked a lot, but when he was around, he would take me fishing. There's certain things that I'm teaching my mom and stepdad and a few others how to do around the house, especially when it comes to gardening and a few other things. And they're like, well, where did you learn this? And I was like, I learned it from my dad. You know, there's certain things that they forget about. And then, you know, throughout the divorce was horrible. You know, my dad didn't want the divorce and, you know, mom did. And you kind of get thrown in the middle of everything and you don't know what to do. I mean, you're 13 years old. You don't have any power. You don't have a voice. You can't do anything. So that was another part of, you know, growing up. I wanted to be a child psychologist to help these children that have no voice. And then I kind of landed into the situation I'm in. So I kind of understand the child's point of view. And then I understand one side of the adult's point of view.
So this is critical. This is critical even in how you walked into the situation you walked into. Ryan wasn't wanting to repeat the cycle, but he did because it's kind of where we are. It's how we are people. He's 13 with no voice. He doesn't even know that he felt that way. Because subconsciously, you're dating this girl and you said it was pretty quickly. And before you know it, you're in a scenario that you had no intentions on being in because you had gone through your own level of trauma that maybe hadn't been healed or reconciled. And I think when men become fathers, especially if they grew up fatherless, for them, this is the redemptive moment. For them, you guys wholeheartedly believe this is the moment where I get to make up for what I missed with my dad and where I can now step in and make up for all of those things. Do you feel like that was one of the things that you were excited about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Redemptive.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the beauty of it if we allow the grace and the space for that to happen, ladies. Because I'm going to put that on ladies too. Okay, so this is what Sarah said. She said, my friend's daughter was born in Tennessee, is what she's saying. And even when mom got locked up, he had no rights. Zero. That's the challenge with, and I'm going to go back to that part of the conversation, the legal rights of fathers. I know every state but Georgia does it the way that Ryan's state does it. You've got to establish, you know, paternity, and then you walk into a separate court to get custody rights and then child support, right?
Well, from what I had to do, we filed in juvenile court, and I was the one who first filed.
Okay.
So we went to juvenile court, and the first hearing we skipped because my attorney was like, are you going to get this paternity test done or what? And I'm like, well, I mean, are they going to force me to? Ryan, they've kept your child from you for a month and a half now. Yeah, they're gonna request a paternity test. So do you want to go ahead and get this done now and skip court so we can save money? I was like, well, yeah, I'll schedule it for tomorrow. So immediately we got that paternity test done. Even after the paternity test came back that I was 99.9925 whatever percent my child's father.
She's still withheld.
Yes.
And see,
until we went to court, because until a judge grants you those rights, even with that paternity test, you're nothing.
But let me say this, Ryan. Ladies, I'm going to talk to us again because, see, I'm going to let Ryan speak for the men, although I may tap into that a little bit. Ladies, you know this man is the father now. Your strategy has now been thrown out the window with this paternity test, but yet you still decide that you're going to make sure that it's going to require a judge to hit a gavel for him to be present. You've got to know what you're saying. You're saying that you want someone else to teach you how to parent. You're saying that somebody else is in charge of how you parent, and especially how he parents. And because really, you don't care about that as far as you, because you're going to do whatever you want to do. Like this question right here, or this statement. My son has 3 daughters and refuses to allow, and she refuses to allow him to pick up the girls for even a simple ice cream. It's been like this for 9 years, and she allows her live-in boyfriend to raise the girls and apply the rules. Who can he turn to? He pays support, $1,000 a month, but very little is left over for living expenses, let alone an attorney. Donna, I'm not taking any cases right now, but call our office. I'll put the information in there, and I'll see how I can get you forwarded to someone, because that is way too long for him not to have gone to court to get that out. And they're going to try to use that against him, but we've got to figure out how to get him in a position. So I will, let me put TFGF, put the phone number in here, so that you can, not today, but call on Tuesday, because I'm not answering today. I'm clearly on live, and I'm clearly on some level of vacation, like Ryan's on vacation. That's how I was able to get him on here today. It's the 4th of July weekend. Let me put this up here, because I think this is key as well. Men are blamed for the failed relationships. Yeah, not only with child support are they blamed, but they are blamed in every sense of the word. And we have to stop saying things, ladies, like he got me pregnant. We have to stop saying things that just sound absolutely ridiculous. Unless you were in a sexual assault situation, that is just fallacy. You participated, and so therefore you also have to own part of the consequences. Let me see. There's a lot of... Ryan, you talked about the 2 battles that you were in, battle with living expenses and how to manage, and then a fight for your daughter. But Ryan Goodwin is on here, and he's talking about politically. Can you talk briefly about that? Because I don't want to make this solely about that. But there's also an element of that where men are literally in 3 battles, trying to get corruption and all these things taken care of. Because, see, you have access to your daughter. You get your... Yes, it's only 6 days, I think it is, right? But some men have not seen their children at all. And so they have this weird place of fighting politically and against judges and attorneys and all of these things just to get involved. Can you talk a little bit what you know about that?
Well, there's something called Title 4D of the Social Security Act that I myself didn't even understand or know until I got more involved. And that all has to do with child support. And come to find out that every dollar collected in child support, the federal government gives incentives to the states to collect that child support, which with an unmarried father, did you not notice that you sign that birth certificate and acknowledgement of paternity, they're going to get your child support, but you may not be able to have access to your child. And then when it comes to attorneys, I mean, that's a long story, you know. I
have some amazing attorneys, guys. I know there are crooks out there, but I am blessed to work with women who grew up fatherless, and, you know, they know what it's like. And I think just like you wanted to be a child psychologist to help children, give them a voice, I believe a lot of, and I hate to say this to people, but a lot of these people that I'm talking about that are amazing attorneys are Black women. We're going to get into Black Lives Matter in a minute too, Ryan, because you've been...
I've been getting murdered.
Yeah, that's another reason I wanted to have you on, because sometimes I can't comment because you be going so fast and I'm busy. But a lot of them are Black women, ladies and gentlemen. I've said this on a live before. Stop picking attorneys who are referred to you and you didn't do any research and who have billboards and radio ads around town. And because you heard them on the radio, you automatically go to them. You have to do your research. Who do they win for? What does their wins look like? That stuff is online. You can research it. It's called case studies. You can find out who they advocate for. And just because they say they are a father's rights attorney, that can in some ways be a manipulation tool. It's not to say that everyone is, but just be careful. Just be careful in picking them. I know people tend to fight for what they call an aggressive attorney too. Aggressive attorney charges a lot of money. Let me just put it that way. You want an attorney who can help you win, and aggressive sometimes doesn't get that done. Aggressive could just simply mean they have tactics like they're going to just keep racking up your bill, but stalling in court to try to attempt to get the other person to run out of money so that then they can just go in for the gusto, right?
Oh yeah. Been there.
Rack up the bill, you're out of money before the other party's out of money.
Yeah.
That's a tactic because some attorneys don't know how to really go to trial. So men, you have to be careful. And ladies, you have to be careful in who you decide to do this with. Mediation with the right people. Once again, I know some people hate mediation because dads get cornered. I'm a certified mediator and I don't corner people. If you don't agree, we don't agree and we move on. But to walk into a room where you say you want to be parents and you want the other party to be a parent, but you don't agree on anything concerning their parenting, you just wasted everybody's time. And eventually that other person's going to they want, even if it's not until the child's 18. Children grow up hating their parents. Children grow up realizing the truth eventually. It may not be when dads want it, because I read somewhere, someone said a moment ago, Ryan, let me see. One guy said, I got to scroll back. Yeah, this one right here was heartbreaking. I'm 55 and the judge told me to look forward to 10 more years of family court when my daughter turns 18. So I will be 65 years old before I'm out of court. 17 years and 3 months in court for wanting to be an involved father. We used to say things like, well, get married because marriage is more of a guarantee. I do believe that's a step, but it keeps you from some of the other steps that Ryan had to make, but it won't keep you from being alienated if the woman is bitter. Yeah. Okay, so that's something I can't tell you marriage is going to keep you from. So Ryan, I don't want to stay here. I want to kind of, because now we've discovered that mama didn't have a daddy. So now she thinks that you're not important. You're invalid. And now what do we do? What has been your fight up until this point? I want to get a little more into your personal fight.
I mean, honestly, it got to the point to where I felt like I had to prove to be a father, because if she thinks this way and her attorney is blasting me in court about me not being an active father, I started being more active and I started showing on social media, hey, look, I'm a dad. And it's just things that you were already doing when you had, your child with you. But I started the dad challenge when I first came on board with the father's rights movement and, getting involved with Americans for Equal Shared Parenting. And the dad challenge was simple. You take your child out to the grocery store, especially the grocery store, or to go shopping for clothes, things that primarily moms were doing. And I started trying to push more dads to do those things, and then take a picture, take a video, show that you're doing this, so more people out there, especially men and women who never had a father, could see this is what parenting is. We as men and women, mothers and fathers, we got to start getting to some equilibrium to where we're equals when it comes to parenting. And sometimes you can be a little insecure as a male getting out there and looking for clothes for your daughter. I remember once I went to a consignment shop and I'm looking for bows to try to match my daughter's dress for her beauty pageant. And it's just me in there. You know, I'm single dad trying to figure out my beauty pageant for my county because mom is doing one in her county. And the lady that, you know, I was like, hey, do you have any more that are gray? And the lady was like, I just want to say, wow, you're a man helping your daughter find a bow that matches her dress. Like that doesn't happen. And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm doing it and I'm not trying to look for any special treatment because I'm doing it. And then it really made me realize, okay, well, we've got a society problem where we're viewing fathers not able to do these things. And then even when you're at the grocery store or you're at the gas station, and back then Stella was about 7 months old, so she's still little, and you know, I've got a carrier and everything, and they're like, oh, well, it looks like daddy's babysitting tonight. And things like that, they kind of destroy you inside because you're like, I ain't babysitting. I'm parenting. Yeah.
I'm being a father. But see, this is where we are. We don't recognize what fatherhood looks like because so many of us didn't have one. We can say this number very flippantly, right? 25 million have grown up without a father, right? We say it almost like a robot. But think about that number. And then think about when you're encountering somebody, they're like, it's 1 in 3 in the Black community and like 1 in 4.5 or whatever in everyone else's community. That means every 3 people you see that are Black didn't have a father. And every 4.5 person that you see walking down the street didn't have a father. And we can't talk about father deprived, and we can't talk about disengaged father in the home, because that number is going to go up a whole lot more. And then I saw someone on here who said their father died when they were 11. So then you want to add the component of death into the equation, and that number goes up exponentially. So that's where I think the problem is, Ryan, is we don't know what fatherhood looks like. And yes, we see a lot of different groups who have come to the surface on social media, and they show what fatherhood looks like, whether that's all fathers or Black fathers or Asian fathers or whatever that moment is. We get to see what fatherhood looks like. And I think a meme and those things are great, but I also think, like you were saying, a video and showing interaction. People don't know that fathers can be nurturing. We've learned it in the courts to some degree. But everyday people, they think men are providers. Women believe this thing. I just had a conversation yesterday with the authors of the book that I've been talking about, Living with a Mama's Boy. And when I tell you, they were breaking that thing down yesterday. I can't wait for Tuesday. But they were breaking that thing down about how women, when I was reading the perspective of women in this book, we live in a fantasy world. The question that they ask in the book, Ryan, is, what is manhood to you? And when you read the women's questions or answer to the question, I even as a woman was like, that's a fantasy. That's a total fantasy. That's not what manhood looks like. And if you don't know what manhood looks like, you don't want to know what a husband's supposed to look like. And you darn sure don't know what a father is supposed to look like. And there's those components roll into one. And I think men struggle in manhood when they didn't have a father. And I know they struggle then going to the next stages. What was it like for you growing up with a divorce situation and then finding yourself in manhood all of a sudden? And then you skip the husband part.
Right.
A lot of people do, so there's no judgment there from my part. But then you jump into fatherhood. I know you were excited, but I want to know, what was that like for you? Were you scared? Were you what? Because excitement is cool, but what were the other feelings? Because I know they were.
I mean, it was everything.
Yeah.
And you're scared because you want to make sure that you are doing better than what your father did for you. You want to be, like I said, it was 12, 13 years old that my parents got divorced. That was when I truly, really needed a father figure, because I'm going through puberty. I'm going through all of these mental changes. Like, I'm getting wired for adulthood right now. And once I got to being a father, even while my daughter's mother was pregnant, I was like, I've been to therapy in the past, and I myself, I went to school for psychology. I wanted, like I said before, I wanted to be a child psychologist. But I myself, I said, I'm about to be a dad. I want to make sure that I'm going to be the best dad I possibly can. I was so nervous about it that I went and saw a therapist.
Okay.
I mean, and then I even went and saw. They were like, "Do you want to see a therapist or do you want to see a psychologist?" And I was like, "Well, hell, let's go try the psychologist this go around." And even within the psychologist, I'm telling him about my past and everything else, and telling him about my daughter's mother and her past and all of that other mess. What was so bad is he was going to retire within the next 4 to 6 months, so I didn't get to continue with him. But there's a lot of emotions that go on. That, man, I'm going to be a dad. I tried not to look at the financial aspect of it. I tried to cut out any negativity that a lot of people thought. And all of my siblings, even my parents, when I told them that, hey, we're pregnant, they were like, well, are you okay?
Oh, wow.
Like, is this okay? I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I'm going to be a dad. Me not realizing what they already knew.
They knew. Yes.
Right. So I'm trying to block out all of that and just focus on being the best boyfriend I could be, and then also being the best father I can be. And with other men out there, it's all going to be different. You have your own journey yourself. And today, when it comes to manhood, I think a lot of us men are almost kind of confused on what is the correct way for manhood, because it's like with Dr. Warren Farrell and his book. When you read it, The Boy Crisis, you've got certain boys that were raised to be the providers and protectors, and then you've got other boys that we call beta males, which is in my area, that were raised to be a provider, protector, nurturer, and carer.
Mm-hmm.
And the nurturing and caring part, when you're trying to nurture and care as much as possible, it looks a little too feminine to some women,
Yeah.
and to men, and it's not cool. So that was another reason of the dad challenge, because to be a father in today's time is to also be equal in the household in today's time.
Well, I want to put this up here because I see all the comments, but I think this one is important. Kathleen says, the problem is a lack of recognizing the need for mental health resources that are trained to help families transition after separation. So I like what she's saying, but I also like where Ryan went. He went beforehand because he knew he had some trauma he needed to deal with.
Right.
And he was experiencing that. But there is no question at all that when you're going through court, that you need to have some mental health professionals. This is the moment I'm going to plug the men's room group on my page. We were originally going to charge for it because it's something that we open up to our clients. And our goal, we have a therapist in that room, and we have 2 life coaches in that room. And what they're supposed to do, and we'll start it soon, they do it outside of this actual men's room right now. But our goal is to provide that safe place for men to literally go off, but get the tools that they need. Because some of you aren't going to the therapist, but some of you will get on a live chat like this. Some of you will get into a group and have that conversation, but you're doing it from a place of living your story and not transitioning into being able to share your journey. And we've got to get you to transition because the pain is still there. And I built that room specifically for you men, for you to jump into that room. And when they go live, or when you have a question, there's a therapist in that room. His name is Suave, honestly, which is a weird name, but that's his name. And I can't play with his name. but he is able to help you navigate some of the things that you have going on. But because you don't jump in the questions, and I've got to really I got to get it together, Ryan, so people know what it's all about. But that's the purpose, because men aren't going to therapy, and then the courts aren't pushing therapy in this way. I'm going to ignore what I see Chris Cole saying, because he got a whole situation over there. Somebody making fun of me, his baby mama, we're going to tell it like it is. He was making fun of me, and she called it, like, whatever she called me isn't even real. And I think it was Spellcheck that got her caught up, but nonetheless. So he's over here making jokes. Let's go to this other position that someone put on here. They were talking about the deadbeat talk and the bad mom movies. It's like this moment where we're programmed. Media and these platforms is where people glean most of what they believe about fatherhood and single mothers and all of that. Ryan, how do we navigate that, especially in this time that we're in? We're in this conversation. I won't jump there yet. I want to go to this Black Lives Matter movement. I'm going to go there after this question. How do we navigate when we're inundated with information that men don't stay, especially Black men? I can list a whole bunch of movies where Black men don't stay. That isn't even the main plot in the movie, but somehow it gets sprinkled in there. What was The Upside? The Upside with Kevin Hart. That wasn't the main plot of the movie. It was a struggling Black man who had, had some challenges, and now he's helping this white man. But the other subplot of the movie was he wasn't a good dad. It's everywhere. How do men deal with that being the conversation everywhere?
Well, I try to block most of that out, but with a lot of people, I mean, that's a lot of our structure of how we are all becoming adults and people ourselves, society, viewing things, because we are watching a television and we're watching a movie and we're seeing how things play out. And man, a Lifetime movie, man, those movies just, ooh, yeah.
Every man, he's an abuser.
Yes.
Stalker.
I mean, I can't watch those Lifetime movies because they get me. They just piss me off. And it's like the movie, The Marriage Story on Netflix.
Watch it, people.
Go
watch that movie.
Yeah. I mean, you sit there, you watch. I had to watch it in spurts because I got so mad at how this system does men and fathers. And this was a great father. Granted, he worked a lot and he didn't necessarily do exactly what mom wanted planned to move to LA to pursue her dreams as well. But, they made him look like this horrible father, and in the movie it shows that he really wasn't, and he was jumping through hoops. And I think that most of these movies they don't show the jumping through hoops that men are actually doing behind the scenes. Yeah. And that's what's so horrible about a lot of the media. And then also, television, movies, shows, all of this other mess, because we're not showing the true color of men and how they are actually busting their butt to be in a relationship and then also to be a parent themselves. But we are pushing the mom and the feminine side of, hey, look, this is what motherhood is. This is what being a woman is. And we're building up women, which is great. I don't disagree with building women, but we need to start building men again.
I was going to say, nobody disagrees with that, but one of the biggest issues that I'm always saying is you give women the whole toolbox. Yeah. And then you give men, a screwdriver and a hammer. And it's like all the programs and all of the stuff are for little girls. We have, in my culture, we've got Black Girl Magic, Black Girls Rock, Girls Inc. I know a group in Atlanta called the Diamonds in the Rough. Like, they're all for girls. But then it's hard pressed. What you got? Boy Scouts for boys, and I don't even know if that's for boys. Totally,
it's not for boys anymore. It's for everybody.
It's meshed all together. And then, because I need to post a picture, I was a brownie at one point. My mother sent it to me the other day. It was hilarious. But I don't even know if there's anything. And I see Junior on here. Junior won't let it go. Junior was like the color purple. And then he was like, I'm going to show you how he posted this, Ryan. He went, the color purple. And then when I didn't say nothing, he was like, the color purple. So he's talking about the movie that we clearly quote. I know pretty much every line in the color purple. He's saying that he feels like the color purple is, I guess, is a movie that promotes absent fatherhood. I'm trying to remember who that was in that movie. Junior, you're going to have to remind me who that was, who was an absent father. Because I think in some ways that's also a different era and a different time. But I don't want to make it like it's nothing, because that's cultural in the Black community. When Black women get married, we be like, I was married now. Like that's what we do to each other, because the color purple is our cultural movie. It's what we believe in. And I want to see what he's saying concerning the color purple, because I'm trying to remember who didn't have a father in that movie. I know there was some father deprivation between the main character and his son, Danny Glover. You feel like Danny, yeah, but he was present, but he deprived his son. I don't want to say he was an absent father. And then Danny Glover's character, he had a really horrible father on top of that. So it was showing you the patterns of dysfunction and trauma. But Junior, you felt like he was not present in his son's life? That's what Miss Sophia told him. If you hadn't done blah, 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 then he wouldn't have done. So Junior, we're going to have a talk about that offline. Anyway, so this goes into my questions. You've been going hard in the paint for Black Lives Matter. And I know there's some issues. I did finally hear yesterday. I try to stay neutral. I'm not the Democrat, Republican. I tend to be a libertarian. I'm saying it out loud on here, but I have voted for one party.
Same here.
The other, if we're talking about a two-party system, way more than people even know. But my question is, like, this man is now saying Black Lives Matter is a hate group. Yesterday. Okay. It's number one, the issue is it started by 3 lesbian women to begin with. So there are some categories in there that people struggle with, especially Black people. But you got to tell me, why did you decide to just really go so hard in this season and really talk about Black Lives Matter and post things about Black fatherhood on your page?
Honestly, because with my page, the Unmarried Father, primarily the Black community is in with the unmarried father. There's a lot with the white community, but in my opinion, the Black father got hit a whole lot harder than everyone else. Sure. And I wanted people to understand that, number one, I believe in Black Lives Matter. I understand those issues of where Black Lives Matter need it. It's just like you hear all the time, until Black Lives Matter, all lives, and I believe all lives matter, but I started pushing Black fathers matter because they do. And a lot of people get mad about that and they see it as a racist comment, but I don't see Black fathers matter as a racist comment. It's pushing the issues, especially of Black Lives Matter. And in my personal opinion, not every issue in Black Lives Matter, but a lot of the issues with Black Lives Matter has to do with fatherlessness.
Ooh.
And if we had, in the white community, we are working on getting there as well. All of the school shooters, all of the church shooters. We had Waffle House, which he actually had a father, but anyways, most of the mass shootings that happen with whites are fatherless boys.
100% of the mass school shootings
Yes.
are white males who were fatherless. And that's what people have to recognize. And then what is it? 90-something% of the mass shooters are fatherless, because not all of them.
I think it's like, it was 97.
Yeah. Because not all mass shootings are
Yeah.
schools. But yeah,
Right.
when we look at it, the numbers, like, we have to recognize that number is crazy. So there's a connection, not only in the white community, but also the black community. People keep saying, what about black on black crime? It's the same thing as the mass shooter piece.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100.
So criminalizing the black family, because I see the facts that come on your page, and I'm going to say this because I don't get time to say it on your page, Ryan. I told you that's the reason I wanted you on. When you sit here and say, because I know you had to delete one situation that, what's his name? Jerry has hit me too. He was like, go to Ryan's page. It's a situation going down right now. One lady who fights for shared parenting was then very racist in her position on black men. Oh, black men aren't forced out. Black men just aren't present. And we were like, so only white men are forced out? Like, this is odd. And you recognize now within the community, Ryan, that there is some real, not only biases, racism within this whole process of fatherlessness, shared parenting, 50-50. There's racism that's happening even within the groups. That is very disheartening because you're fatherless just like the black children were fatherless. And I have said it before, the reason that you are now, as different cultures, stepping into this is because we were the guinea pigs. You allowed it. You watched us go through it. You made fun of us, continued to oppress us. And now you get to experience what it's like. That's a spiritual rule.
Yes.
Look, while Chris's ex is saying that I don't even know, physiologist or something. She don't even know what she's saying. I'm a minister first. And this is a spiritual law. Like, you have violated this. And so now you can call it Title 4D. Title 4D was happening to black men.
Yep.
And black men were being called deadbeats. Title 4D was happening to black men, where the woman, go watch the movie. Oh, what's the movie called? The movie is called, because I posted a link on Dr. Torri J. Oh, and it stars Diana Carroll. And she is a mother of 4. But the social worker from the DFACS office actually comes in her home, and she's looking at things that she has in her home. And we heard, Claudine is the name of the movie, 1974. It's called Claudine. And the social worker shows up at her home unannounced at times, just to see what she has in her home. Well, the neighbor told us that you're dating a black man. What is he bringing over here? We need to deduct it from what you're getting from us. These are real moments that were happening in the 70s for the black people, and you guys ignored it and act like it wasn't. And so I appreciate now that every culture is experiencing it, because just like racism, it takes every culture, every gender to stand up and fight against inequality. So I'm not bashing you. I'm just telling you, you had to experience it to know what it was like. Do not separate yourself from black men as if they have not experienced the same thing you're experiencing. They've been experiencing it much longer. And I get, Ryan, why you feel the way that you do about Black Lives Matter. I will never forget the day you posted that picture and people said that he was holding up a white baby as a prop either. And the baby was clearly show that there is an issue that we have to deal with in our hearts concerning black people, but you don't want to acknowledge that. You just want to say, oh, why did you put black in front of it? That's because I've seen that on your post too, Ryan. Oh, well, it's just fathers matter. Why black fathers? Why black lives? I'm going to repeat this and then I'm going to let you talk because I'm getting heated. I heard a lady say it this way yesterday, and it was a white lady, and she was on a pastoral call, and it was pastors, I believe, of the AME church, and it was all females, and they were talking about what they needed to do to help in this season. And they had a white lady talking, Cheryl, I believe was her Dr. Cheryl something. I couldn't pronounce her last name. And she said she had to speak up because it was pressed upon her heart by God to speak up. And she said a lot of people, around her say all lives matter. And she's now saying, shut up. She's telling her white friends, shut up. She said, because if a house is burning in your neighborhood, do you want the fire truck to come to all houses, or do you want the fire truck to come to the house that's on fire?
Yep.
And I was like, see, it's just that easy. This house is on fire. So stop giving facts and tips about Black men are more violent, and white men have their own violence too. 100% of the mass shooters in this country who have gone into schools are white men who are fatherless. Yep. The issue is fatherlessness. So don't do that when you criminalize the Black man, when white men have clearly been treated differently and white men are clearly committing the same types of crimes. It just looks different for us because of how media puts it out. So Ryan, you talk about your concern about Black Lives Matter, and I'm gonna let it go right now.
All right. Well, I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to start with where we're at. So, with Black Lives Matter, like I said before, I support it. And when Junior made that post, Junior's actually a part of the Unmarried Father now. I've brought him in. I had to. But when I put Black Lives Matter or Black Fathers Matter and posted that picture, when that person commented that wasn't his child, and get that, what did he do? Take a white baby? And oh man, that just yes. I was heated. Even in the morning, normally, like right now, I'm kind of chill. I'm good. By the end of the day is when I really start, producing my memes and doing live feeds and stuff like that. So, normally I'm kind of marinating until I get later on. And that morning I was messaging the group and I was like, look, but we ain't having this. And I'm going harder, like we're just, people need to understand that if Black fathers matter, then all fathers are going to matter. If Black fathers can move their way up, we're going to move our way up. It doesn't mean they're low man on the totem pole. So if they're able to move up that totem pole, we're moving up with them. You know what I mean? So I just don't understand why people can't understand that Black fathers matter, because all fathers matter.
Yeah.
And I did a live feed the other night about NASCAR. And sometimes you got to draft the right group of people that are in the moment right now in the front to be able to speak, because if they have the opportunity to speak right now, then they need to speak. Let them speak. Right now, it may not be the opportunity for a white guy to be able to speak. So,
and let's deal with it this way. The root of fatherlessness started with Black men. Title 4D started with Black men. So why can't we just allow that to be the position? Because I could go into some other stuff about why Black men are the moment right now. And if you can't let Black men come to the forefront, it says a whole lot about you. It says a whole lot about why you're fighting for this whole idea of all lives matter. As if someone's saying that your life doesn't matter. You have to recognize, since you guys, I see it on all of your pages. I've seen it in here about the 14th Amendment and all this. If you guys are such Constitution, you're like, oh, I know the Constitution. So in the Constitution that it made sure that Black men were 3/5 of a person. They weren't even a whole person when it came down to the Constitution. Like when this whole thing was brought up. And so you think that Black people don't understand who they are in this country. And it's unfortunate that you can tout the things that you want to tout about the Constitution while yet ignoring the other aspects of it and how it impacts other people. I will say it on here and I'll say it till Jesus comes home. I need for us to really comprehend that Black people and other cultures are the only ones who have to know the white perspective. White people never have to know anyone else's perspective. And that is challenging because we live in a white society. You guys are the majority. And because you are the majority, we have to know your perspective. And I think it's only fair now that you sit down and hear ours, because that's what the opportunity is presenting. And if you're rejecting it, then you need to ask yourself if you are a racist, if you do have bias in your heart. And I know people don't want to deal with that, and they don't like the conversation. And you can go to my Instagram. I posted a picture just recently, I think it was 2 weeks ago or a week ago, of the woman who used to babysit me up until I was like 6 or 7, from a baby, white lady and her daughter. That's my babysitter. So I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan. We didn't grow up with hate. Not where I come from. I didn't grow up with hate in my heart. I learned some things from my adulthood, but this whole Black Lives Matter, this whole conversation about Black fathers mattering in the midst of what we have going on in our country right now is unfortunate. It is unfortunate that I have to find out that these organizations that I have spent my own money to travel and speak at these groups, and not the founders, but we're talking about people within the groups who have hugged on me and loved on me and told me how amazing I am. Now I get to see all of your posts and how racist you really are. That, Ryan, has been devastating. Not because I don't expect some people to feel the way they feel, but it's that way because I thought you were different. Just like they say, well, she's different. She's different than the Black people I know. No. When you say that, that's microaggression.
Yeah.
At that point.
I've noticed it on my page as well. And it not just the unmarried father, but even on my personal page. And then things that there's a lot that's coming to light this year with everything that's going on with COVID, with Black Lives Matter, with the election, we're starting to see a lot of people's true colors this year.
Yes. Paul said it's like shit. Hold on, I'll put this on here. I know everybody's talking really fast. I'm sorry. Paul said it's like shaking your hand and hitting you with the other hand. Come on. Yeah. It doesn't work like that. It does. Like, we have to come together. It is not a separate thing. I even saw Kenneth Roses say on here, it's not quite 100%. Then you are stepping outside of what Dr. Warren Farrell said, because he said 100% of school mass shooters. He didn't say mass shooters, period, were white and fatherless. So I just want to be clear on that. And Kenneth, if you know a mass shooter that was not white, a school shooter, I want to be specific because he was specific. Let me know, because I don't know that. Ryan, how do you suggest we solve this issue of the unmarried father and helping him be involved? How do you suggest we solve this?
Paternity test first. And it boils down to what women are going to allow him to do. But even then, unless he goes to court, he's still nothing. I've got a dad right now. Mom just moved to Nevada. Told him last second, already has taken the child and left, went ahead and filed in court, but he's finding out right now that he didn't have any rights. And they've been separated for years, but now he's starting to realize that the only reason why he had rights was because mom allowed those rights. So a lot of getting things fixed, I honestly believe that all men need to take a paternity test.
Married,
not just yes,
yeah.
Everybody. We just need to make it clear.
That. Look, Ashley just posted a paternity test for all in the hospital, regardless of marriage status. She, as you said that, she posted that, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean that's seriously how it needs to go down, because even with Carnell Smith, he's got a book out, by the way, so y'all go out there and check him out. I think it's on Amazon. But anyways, even with some of the things that he's had and he's dealt with others, is there's married men that come to find out that they weren't even their children's father. So we all know who the mother is, because we watch that child come out of that woman, but we don't know who the father is. And I can understand step parents, stepfathers are very important. Having a father figure in general is extremely important to all children. But we need to also know our biology, and there's certain mentalities, like some of mental illnesses and diseases and everything else that has to do with fatherhood as being a sperm donor. But
Yeah.
either way, we need these men to know, hey, you're a dad. And later on down the road, sometimes these children grow up to be adults and want to find their biological father. So I really believe that we need to have paternity tests at the start. It's just, how are we going to have that happen without there being conflict in the hospital? Because if you find out you're not the dad in the hospital and you're married,
that changes the game.
Right.
Changes the strategy. Yes. Yeah. I want to quote a couple of things here. Adam said, quote me, if a white educated teacher, soldier, primary caregiver male is buried in Brown County, Green Bay courts, what of my brothers and sisters? Very true. I think this one is very key too. This is not a matter that we need to be judged mentally. We need to embrace any and every positive aspect when it concerns our children. We need to value our children and their fathers. Our Black children and their fathers deserve to have equal time with their children. Let's see good examples for our children. Let's set good examples for our children in this society. Start by valuing everyone as human beings. That's what I saw growing up. I saw people who were touched and crazy, absolutely. But I also saw people who loved each other in the community I grew up in. I can tell people all the time that my babysitter was white. Like, go to Instagram, you can see that picture. And then my best friend, one of my first best friends, was Kimmy. She was a white girl who lived in my apartment complex. I was probably 5-ish, 6-ish, somewhere in there. Then we moved, and then my next best friend, because she lived 2 doors over from me, was Anita Mencius, which is a Mexican girl. And then we got into high school and Anita got a little goth. And so before you know it, then my best friends became men. And so all of my life, I've had male best friends as long as I can remember. I think once we moved again, Aaron became my best friend, who was the neighbor 1 door over from me. And he was my best friend well until my 20s. And then Lloyd became my best friend. And Lloyd was my best friend for about 10, 15 years. And so I've always had different individuals in my life. Now I have a few best friends, but one is female. But I tell people all the time, she can be very masculine. And my female best friend has been through this. She was the first person I ever watched go through this, Ryan. She's in your shoes. So she has 3 baby daddies and a husband. She has 2 baby daddies and a husband. And her second baby daddy, when she went, because that's what I'm gonna call him, because that's what we call him, she came to Atlanta and she left the child with him because they had a great relationship. He then took her to court for abandonment. And she then had to fight with someone who made way more money than she did. Then this woman paid $1,000, almost $1,100 a month in child support for this child. And when she moved back from Georgia to Detroit to be close to her second child, she was without a job for a period of time. And they were doing that whole news thing, where they round fathers up. Well, they tried to round her up on the news, but she wasn't at her mother's house, the address they had. This is my best friend, people. So when people come to me, Ryan, and say, you don't know what you're talking about, I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
Because
I've got friends that I work with that have dealt with this exact same issue. I've got a girl that I've been talking to that her first child, this happened to as well. And it's both men and women are dealing with this, but when a man gets access, there's an attorney that's going to get in his ear and say, hey, look, you can do this. and you can get child support.
And let me say
and that's what happens with women as well.
Yes.
You know you can do this and you can get child support.
And the reason the second guy did this to her is because he had been divorced and he went through it. So he knew the game. She had no idea what was going to happen to her. He already knew, so he didn't want to go through it again. So he preempted her and did all this stuff to make sure that she didn't see her son. And now her son is, I think, 20. And I can tell you, he's very aware of who his father is. And now he's gone off. And, you know, he's spent a lot of time with my friend. So she's had that redemptive moment. And I will tell you, her true redemption came maybe 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. And this had been going on since the child was 6 months old. And he is now 20.
Oh my God.
I want to say he might be 21. And she just had the true redemptive moment 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's going to take time. And I see people saying, get rid of the courts, get rid of government. We were asking the solution. I will say, Ryan, I love what you do. I love the fact that you said, you know, I was in Father's Rights Movement and most of them are divorced and I needed to have a different voice. And when you said that, I was like, he's spot on, because it's not the same journey. I can say, out of living in Georgia and doing work around the country, I like Georgia's way of doing it. I'm not saying that it works for everyone, but I do like Georgia's way of doing it. If we're going to have some type of court involvement, they call it legitimation. And they take you, it's a one-stop shop. It's paternity, it's custody, and it's child support all in the same moment. And so you're not bouncing from court to get what it is you need. And that doesn't mean that you got to do it straight out of the hospital, but you do need to do it within a proper time frame in order to get legitimated. And even the verbiage in the thing is so antiquated. Once you get legitimated, it says that you are now deemed as the father as if this child was conceived in wedlock, which kind of sucks when you read it, but it's an easier step, or it's an easier process than what a lot of men experience around this country, of bouncing from getting a paternity test. And you went through juvenile court, so yours was still easier.
Yeah, mine was exactly the way you're speaking of, but I had an attorney that knew how to do it. And even within that, we did a paternity suit.
Yes.
And because we did a paternity suit, the attorney was like, oh, so you're trying to say that this child isn't yours. So that is how they were able to manipulate everything to alienate me from my daughter until we got into court and a judge was able to say, you have rights.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for coming on. I thank you for sharing your story. I don't want to keep you long because we could be on here all day.
Oh, man.
I'm going to have a conversation with somebody else in about an hour. But I want to promote today, because I know you guys can't see this, but we've created the Fatherless ribbon. My nails are all jacked up. We created the Fatherless ribbon. And if you donate to the Fatherless Generation Foundation, it's $25. You get a Fatherless ribbon. It's a really cool thing. It's actually by an artist that we have partnered with. He grew up fatherless, and we took the ribbon out of a picture that he's done, which costs more money than I can afford, Ryan. It's like the picture is like 50 grand. It's acrylic. It's beautiful. But he allowed us to pull the ribbon out of that acrylic painting called Childhood Dreams. And as a young man, he wanted to have his father present, but now he does this amazing artwork, Reginald Laurent, and I am grateful that he allowed us to do this. And so if you guys donate to TFGF, you $25 and you get this amazing ribbon. So I would like to offer that today and have that conversation with you offline. But I thank you guys for joining us. I know, Ryan, we could get into a million other topics.
Man, seriously, we could talk about this all day long. And like I said, if we did this later in the day,
yeah,
woo!
Yeah. You got your daughter today. It's the holiday.
Yes.
Couldn't do it later today, so we decided to do it when he was available. And enjoy your baby, because you're going to pick her up in an hour. You got like an hour and 10 minutes before you go get this little one. So I want to thank you for jumping on here. We will do this another time, and we will go beyond this. And I just want to focus on this Black Lives Matter situation, because we have to help these people understand how important it is, Ryan. Yes, and I love the fact that you are a white man constantly posting about this. And you even say, I don't get it right. And I'm trying to say what I need to say, but you got
yes. I've never experienced being Black, so I'm trying the best I can without sounding like I'm racist myself. You know what I mean? Right. I'm trying to it's a totally different situation where you don't know what's right and what's wrong. You're just trying to navigate the right path the best you can,
Wait a
with
minute.
trying to help others.
Before I let you go, I got to put this up here. Dr. Torri and Ryan Powell, my question about the conversation regarding Black fathers, which I firmly agree with, is how does this impact the mixed children whose fathers aren't Black, because whose babies are often used as well? And they lose their father's involvement because the mother will say, Dad can't teach them, can't teach him our culture and heritage. If those roles were reversed, would it fly? So how do we address the fathers of mixed children who aren't Black? Okay, mixed children who aren't Black, are you saying, help me, Ryan, what's she saying here?
I think she's mixing in with maybe they're half Asian and white, or half Asian or Mexican and Asian, or Mexican and white,
Right?
Or even Native American. I think that's where she's
I think so too, but that I don't know if that goes into the conversation, because that goes into Asian Fathers Matter or whatever that father situation is. Right. I wouldn't say that once again.
And I think overall, once you have Black Fathers Matter, it's going to extend to everything, because I have white friends of mine, white girls. Hell, there was a girl that I actually dated there for a little bit. She has a mixed little girl who has, Black hair, because her father is Black. Well, her father has been fighting to try to be a part of his daughter's life, and mom is just like, no, he's a bad guy. And I'm like, but you had a relationship with him.
Not a bad guy.
And you're having to take her to barbershops or salons that primarily deal with Black hair, and those people know daddy, and you're getting these weird looks, and you're worried about even taking them there. But it's situations like that I told her, I was like, look, you need to let dad involved. This is when I really first started the fathers' rights movement and getting involved with all of my stuff. But I think that may have to do with a little bit of it, and that would help her situation as well.
Well, and I think she's saying meaning fathers of mixed children who are white, Asian, Mexican, etc. So I'm assuming that Black is not included in the mixture that she's referring to. Right. I testified in a case similar to what she's saying. And what they tried to utilize against the father in this case was that the mother was Indian. She was from India, and he was white. I think he was white Italian, and very much so had an issue. They had a major issue in court saying, well, what organizations are here that you have taken him to, or events where you taught him his culture? What have you done to teach him this about his culture? And because of where they lived, yes, they had those things, because there was a connection between a corporation in India that brought a lot of Indian immigrants to the country. But it was one of those things where he was like, I've taken him to those things, but there's not a lot here. And they were like, exactly. And that's why he needs to move and relocate. And it was like, thank God the judge saw past all of that. But, and she didn't relocate, but I watched them use it, Ashley. And so dads do have those moments, but you have to do what you can to incorporate, that other culture into that child's life. So I think that's what she's talking about, and I think that's what she saw. But I wanted to say that before we got off of here. So I'm going to leave us and get off of here right now so he can go get his daughter, because I don't know how far he's got to drive, and I know there's some distance. So I am Dr. Torri J. I'm the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation, and I have truly had the privilege of talking to Ryan Powell of the Unmarried Father today, and I'm grateful. So I will talk to you later, you guys. All right, bye-bye.
See ya.